Philadelphia, August 1949. The night was thick and humid, as if the city itself was sweating in fear. On top of the hill, wrapped in a suffocating fog, St. Mary's Hospital stood like a forgotten monolith. Its shattered, grimy windows reflected the faint moonlight like dead eyes, watching those who dared to approach. Liam tightened his grip on the flashlight, his hands trembling. The air was heavy with the stench of mold and rust, mingling with the cold breeze that swept through the empty parking lot. Beside him, Evelyn hugged her arms, trying to ignore the chill crawling up her spine. They weren't supposed to be there. No sane person even mentioned the hospital without whispering, as if something inside could hear them. But they were there, and they were about to find out why that place had been condemned to oblivion. A wet, muffled sound echoed from the darkness ahead. Something, or someone, was waiting for them inside. Liam took a deep breath, forcing himself to step forward. The heavy double doors of St. Mary's Hospital loomed before them, their rusted hinges barely holding the weight of time. He reached out, and with a low, aching creak, the doors gave way. A stale gust of air rushed past them, thick with decay and something else, something rotten. Evelyn swallowed hard. This place smells like a grave. They stepped inside, their footsteps echoing through the vast, empty reception hall. The walls were peeling, covered in dark stains that had long since dried. Old wheelchairs sat abandoned in the corners, their metal frames corroded by time. A gurney lay on its side, its leather straps torn as if someone or something had fought to escape. Liam swung his flashlight across the room. Faint, distorted whispers brushed against the silence, coming from deeper within the hospital. He turned to Evelyn, his voice barely above a whisper. "Did you hear that?" Evelyn nodded, gripping his sleeve. "It's coming from upstairs." A sudden thump echoed from the second floor, followed by the unmistakable sound of something dragging across the ceiling. It was slow, deliberate, as if whatever was up there wanted them to know it was waiting. Liam's pulse pounded in his ears. He turned the flashlight toward the grand staircase. The beam of light flickered for a second, and in that brief moment he saw it, a figure standing at the top of the stairs. Tall, motionless, watching. But when he blinked, it was gone. Evelyn clutched his arm. "Liam, I don't think we're alone." A chilling breath ghosted against the back of her neck. And then, a whisper. "Leave, before it's too late." Liam spun around, his flashlight beam slicing through the darkness. Nothing, just the endless decayed corridors stretching into the void. But Evelyn's face was pale, her breath coming in short, panicked bursts. "I swear, someone just whispered in my ear," she said, gripping his arm. A sudden crash from behind them made them both jump. A metal tray had fallen from a counter, spinning noisily on the cracked floor before settling into silence. The room was playing tricks on them, or something was toying with them. Liam exhaled sharply. "We need to find the source of those whispers. If this place is really haunted, we have to know why." Evelyn hesitated but nodded. She wasn't ready to leave. Not yet. Not without understanding the fear clawing at her chest. They moved cautiously toward the staircase, the old wood groaning beneath their steps. As they ascended, the air grew colder, pressing against them like an unseen force. The second floor was even worse than the first. Rows of hospital rooms stood with doors ajar, their interiors swallowed by darkness. Faint scratched messages lined the walls, warnings scrawled in shaky, desperate hands. "They see you. No escape. Do not open room 428. Evelyn's fingers traced over the last message. The number 428 had been scratched in deep, jagged strokes, as if whoever wrote it had been in a frenzy. A long, drawn-out sigh came from inside one of the rooms. Liam swallowed hard. "Did you hear that?" Evelyn didn't answer. Her gaze was locked on something in the doorway ahead, a shadow moving on its own. Not cast by them, not human. The whisper returned, clearer this time and impossibly close. Why did you come? The door to room 428 creaked open on its own. Something inside was waiting. The door to room 428 stood open, yawning like a black mouth in the dim glow of Liam's flashlight. The air that spilled from inside was colder than the rest of the hospital, heavy with a suffocating stench of decay. Evelyn's breath came in short, shaky gasps. Liam, we shouldn't go in there. But something inside was calling them. Not in words, but in an unshakable pull, a force that wrapped around their bones and dragged them forward. Liam stepped over the threshold first. The room was wrecked. Rusted bed frames lay overturned, and broken glass crunched beneath his boots. But what made his stomach twist was the walls. They were covered in deep scratches, as if dozens of hands had clawed at them in terror. Then Evelyn gasped. At the far end of the room, a single hospital bed stood upright, its restraints torn and dangling. Something lay on it, a shape under a brittle yellowed sheet. Liam lifted the flashlight, his pulse hammering. That's not a person, right? The silence stretched. The shape on the bed was too still. Then it moved. The sheet sank inward, as if something underneath was taking a breath. Evelyn grabbed Liam's arm, her nails digging into his skin. We need to leave, now! Liam nodded, but as they turned toward the door violently shut on its own. The whispering began again, dozens of voices overlapping, growing louder. Don't leave us! Stay! Please! 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 Liam grabbed the handle and pulled. Locked. Behind them, the sheet on the bed began to slide away, and underneath it, something twitched. A single rotting hand jerked upward. Evelyn screamed, and then the lights went out. Darkness. A suffocating, absolute blackness swallowed the room. The flashlight flickered in Liam's grip, its beam struggling against the void. Evelyn, he called, his voice barely above a whisper. No answer. A sharp breath rasped somewhere in the room, but it wasn't hers. Liam's pulse hammered. He reached out blindly, searching for her in the dark. His fingers brushed fabric, her coat, but then something cold wrapped around his wrist. Not her hand. Something else. He yanked away, stumbling back, his breath ragged. The whispering grew louder, voices twisting together in a horrible, overlapping wail. Begging, pleading, crying. Then footsteps, slow, deliberate, coming toward him. The flashlight flickered again, its dim glow revealing the bed. The sheet was now on the floor. The figure that had been beneath it was standing. Its body was impossibly thin, skin stretched over bones like brittle parchment. Its face wasn't there, just a smooth, featureless expanse where eyes, nose, and mouth should have been. It tilted its head as if listening. Then it took a step forward. A hand grabbed Liam from behind. He screamed until Evelyn's voice cut through the terror. Liam, run! The flashlight died completely. A deafening shriek tore through the room, inhuman and agonized. And then the door burst open on its own. Cold air rushed in, yanking them from their trance. Liam didn't think. He grabbed Evelyn's hand and they bolted. The hospital's corridors stretched endlessly as they ran, but the whispers followed them, growing into a deafening roar. Then, just as they reached the entrance, the doors slammed shut, and behind them in the darkness, the whispers stopped, all except one. You shouldn't have come. A breath ghosted against the back of Liam's neck. Something was standing right behind him. A cold breath slithered across Liam's neck. His muscles locked, terror coiling in his stomach like a nest of writhing snakes. Evelyn was the first to turn around, and when she did, she froze. Her eyes went wide, her mouth trembled, but no sound came out. Liam didn't want to look. Every instinct screamed at him to run, to never turn back, but something made him. Slowly, heart hammering, he turned his head. It was there. The faceless figure stood inches away, towering over them. Its skin was ashen, its limbs unnaturally elongated, and though it had no eyes, Liam felt it staring, boring into him, into his mind, into the deepest corners of his fear. And then it moved, not like a person, like a glitch in reality. A shudder, a distortion, 1 second, still, the next, closer. Evelyn gasped. The thing's hand shot out, toward her. Liam grabbed her wrist and yanked her backward. The creature lunged, but something stopped it. A sudden burst of sound, a scream, but not from them. From upstairs. Liam and Evelyn whipped their heads toward the second floor. The sound grew, rising into a chorus of tortured voices. The creature twitched violently, its form distorting, as if the cries were hurting it. Its faceless head snapped upward, its long fingers clawing at its own skin. Then it vanished, gone. The hospital went silent. Only the sound of their ragged breathing filled the air. Evelyn's hand gripped Liam's like a vice. What the hell was that? Liam shook his head. He didn't know. He didn't want to know. But one thing was clear. Something else was in this hospital. Something even worse. And it had just woken up. The hospital was silent, but the air felt wrong. Thick, heavy, charged with something unseen. It was as if the building itself was breathing, waiting. Liam's hands trembled as he wiped sweat from his brow. He turned to Evelyn, her face pale, eyes darting toward the stairs. "That thing is gone," he muttered, trying to convince himself. Evelyn shook her head. No, it was afraid of something. A chill crawled down Liam's spine. The screams that had driven the faceless thing away still echoed faintly from above. Then, a noise. A door creaking open. Upstairs. Evelyn turned to him, voice barely a whisper. "We have to leave." Liam nodded, but his feet wouldn't move. A sick feeling settled in his gut. The front doors were shut. The hospital was playing with them. And worse, they weren't alone. A faint click-click-click echoed from the stairwell. Footsteps. Slow, measured, deliberate. Something was coming down. Liam aimed the flashlight toward the stairs, the beam shaking. At first, there was nothing. Then, a shadow moved. A figure stepped onto the landing, partially hidden in the darkness. It wasn't like the faceless creature. It was human, or at least, it used to be. Liam's stomach twisted. It wore a rotting hospital gown, hanging loose over its skeletal frame. Its skin was grey and peeling, like it had been left to rot for decades. But its eyes, they were black, endless, and they were locked on him. The figure smiled, a sickening, unnatural stretch of its lips revealing rows of blackened teeth. Then, in a voice that wasn't just one voice but many, it whispered, "You came too late." The lights flickered, and then it started running toward them. The thing charged. Its bare feet slapped against the floor, its hospital gown flaring as it sprinted toward them. Too fast, too unnatural. Liam didn't think. He grabbed Evelyn's arm and ran. They tore through the hospital's dark corridors, their footsteps echoing in a chaotic, panicked rhythm. But the click, click, click of the creature's steps never fell far behind. Evelyn risked a glance over her shoulder. It was gaining on them. "Faster, Liam!" she screamed. Ahead, the hallway split into two. Left or right? Liam's mind raced. The front doors had sealed shut. There was no way out through the entrance, but there had to be another exit. There had to be. He made a choice. Left. The corridor twisted into darkness, the air thick with rot. A row of hospital rooms lined the passage, doors hanging off their hinges. "Find a door! A way out!" Evelyn shouted. Liam's flashlight flickered. No, not now. The clicking footsteps were closer, right behind them. Then, a cold hand clamped onto Liam's shoulder. His breath caught in his throat. The grip was wrong, too strong, too bony, too cold. And then the whispers returned. Not from the creature, from all around them. Soft voices, urgent, pleading. Don't stop! Keep running! You must not let it catch you. Liam twisted, yanking free. The thing snarled, its mouth splitting wider as it lunged. Then Evelyn grabbed a door handle and pulled. Unlocked. She shoved it open and they stumbled inside. Liam barely had time to slam the door shut before... bang! The creature hit the other side with impossible force, the door shuddering violently. Evelyn locked it with shaking hands. "We can't stay here, Liam." The door pounded again, the wood splintered. Liam whipped the flashlight around the room. It was an operating theater. And at the center of the room, beneath a rusted surgical light, was another door. Not just any door, an emergency exit, a way out. But as they sprinted toward it, something moved on the operating table. A figure covered by a sheet. It sat up, and in the dim light, it turned its head toward them. The whispers grew frantic. And then, the door behind them burst open. The door exploded inward, shards of wood flying as the creature lunged into the room. Liam and Evelyn stumbled back, their eyes darting between the thing in the doorway and the thing on the operating table, both moving. The creature from the hallway snarled, its blackened teeth glistening with something thick and dark. Its hollow eyes locked onto them, unblinking. It wanted them, but the figure on the table was different. It sat up fully now, the sheet sliding away to reveal a skeletal frame wrapped in withered skin. A patient long dead. Its head twitched toward them in unnatural jerks, as if adjusting to their presence. And then it spoke, but not in one voice, in many. "You must leave now." Liam's breath hitched. The dead were warning them. Evelyn took a step back. "Liam, the door!" The creature from the hallway lunged, but as it did, the thing on the table suddenly moved. It grabbed the intruder's arm. For the first time, the snarling creature hesitated. A crackling, agonized screech erupted from its throat as the skeletal figure tightened its grip, bones crunching. The whispers swelled, filling the room with an unearthly chorus of voices. The dead were fighting the monster. Liam and Evelyn didn't wait to understand why. They ran. Liam slammed into the emergency exit door. It was rusted, barely holding together, but it gave. Cold night air rushed in. They burst outside, stumbling onto cracked pavement. Behind them, the hospital loomed, its windows dark, the whispers still echoing from within. Then silence, and the door shut on its own. The hospital went still. Evelyn collapsed to her knees, gasping. "Liam, what the hell just happened?" Liam stared at the building, his heart pounding. He knew the truth. They weren't the first to come here, and they wouldn't be the last. But something else was certain. Not all of the dead inside were evil. Some had just been waiting for someone to help them fight what truly haunted the hospital. And as Liam turned away, he swore he could still hear them whispering. A warning. A plea. "Never come back."